right, some people tell their stories with words. Our next guest has always told his story through art. His work has taken him from professional illustrator for NASA to his own gallery in Round Top to having his paintings displayed in one of the state's top destinations, Buc-ee's. In his book, Humble Decade, John R. Lowery pairs his paintings with personal essays reflecting on 10 years of life, family, and finding inspiration in rural Texas. John joins us to share the journey that inspired his first book. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Those burgers look delicious.
You have a great voice. You know,
well,
you do well.
you.
I mean, we might have a burger for you, okay?
I hope so.
All right. Yes, you have a great voice, but it kind of runs in the family. We'll talk about that in a second. But you've been creating art since you were a child, and almost all of us were doing that since we were children.
Right.
But your mother noticed something a little bit different about your art. You were that kid in class where the teacher went, and everybody, take a look at this.
Everybody wanted me to draw something in class, for sure. And also, I think my mom noticed that I wasn't good at any of the other subjects. So she really pushed me into art and really supported me and nurtured me as an artist, which was everything to me.
Yeah, we were talking in the green room about, you know, the whole ADHD thing and different things on the spectrum and stuff like that. And kudos to your mom for finding something that you were good at that wasn't necessarily the reading, writing, arithmetic piece, but that helps instill confidence in you too, doesn't it?
And she always supported all the arts. You know, I was in theater and dance and art, but art was the one area that I excelled at the most.
Yeah, and got you lessons outside of the classroom, the Glassell School of Art at MFAH, Museum of Fine Arts, Houston, and you went to the Art Institute of Houston.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And, you know, it was a great experience. It was something I always wanted to do. Now, truthfully, I thought, you know, when I was a kid that I would go off to New York City or something, but for a guy that we didn't have a lot of money in our family, I had to pay my own way, and that's just where things took me.
Yeah. All right, when you think of being an artist, though, most of the time we're thinking is that piece that's hanging on the wall, maybe a sculpture or something else, but you became an illustrator for NASA.
That was one of those lucky things, and I think my life now looks like it was master planned, but that was just by fate and chance because a high school English teacher, her husband was an artist at NASA. I had the opportunity to go in there and meet him. Next thing you know, I was working there full time, because with art, unlike degrees and things, it's what is your ability?
Right.
And he recognized an ability in me that from day one I was there full time, and that's what allowed me to pay my way through college. And I was published at a very early age, doing some neat things and meeting famous astronauts and famous people from the space industry. And being a Houston guy, I went to Clear Lake High School.
Perfect, yeah.
I knew a lot of the astronauts, and to be a part of that program in a little way was really a great opportunity.
What was the art, what was you were doing?
So it would be pictures of what future missions to Mars would be. And a lot of things that are now happening, I was painting almost 40 years ago. And at the time, computers weren't part of it. Nowadays, when you see things about space, a lot of the images you see are computer renderings.
And
I'm
of course,
sure
AI
it'll be AI someday.
Exactly.
But back then, it was a guy with an airbrush and paintbrush painting stuff so that it could be seen on television. Also, our art was sent to Congress and directly to presidents so they could visualize what they were funding for NASA, because pictures, you know, 1,000 words, however that goes.
That's right, yeah. All right, you and your wife at some point decided that, okay, we've been in the big city long enough.
Yes.
Let's try farm life. So you bought a former dairy farm in Burton, Texas.
We did.
Sounds all nice and romantic. And then you realize we bought a former dairy farm in Burton, Texas.
Well, what's funny is I think this is what's great about having a partnership with my wife, Laurie, 34 years, and it was her dream to buy land. It wasn't my dream, but where things like this work best is when whatever your spouse's dream is, if you, instead of resisting it, embrace it. And that's what I did. I went whole hog into this idea of
no pun
having
intended.
And we call ourselves city. It's because, you know, we came from the city, and being out in the country is different, and what you have to do in the country with equipment and things, we didn't know what we were doing, but we put ourselves all into it, and to now we actually live there. You know, we were Houston, Upper Kirby, had this as a part-time thing, but it became a full-time thing eventually for us.
Your second act as a couple.
Yes.
All right, old habits die hard, though. You picked up a paintbrush again.
I did.
And you put a spin on various critters, farm, and things around town. And so your art is very whimsical. It's fun to look at. It makes people smile. And you decided to sell it in your own gallery.
Yeah, so my art before, I was paid to be an artist, whether it was NASA NASA. I was an illustrator in the advertising
And you were told
industry.
what to create, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I created, this was something that for the first time in my life, I had inspiration. And because my wife wanted to buy land, we go out there and buy the land, and I drove around and go, oh my gosh, look at all this. And I started painting, and it started with the glamour animals, a longhorn, and then
The glamour animals,
horses.
and then the donkey shows up.
My wife one day, we're driving around, she goes, hey, don't forget about the humble donkey. It doesn't get the respect it deserves. And there's something about when she said humble donkey, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to open an art gallery, and I'm going to call it Humble Donkey. And she's like, what? And but we did it. I did a lot of things without her permission. That was one of those things. But like me with the land, she came in full force and really made our gallery what it is. I created the art, but she's the one that made it a special place.
Open it from Round Top. You closed it after 10 years. It's a lot of work, but you can still get your art, online and thing. You want to spend more time with family as it was growing and the grandkids. But the book Humble Decade, you have a book over that your
I do.
wife
Well,
had shown
this
you
was so
before.
cool. So this is an artist, Teresa Elliott, who I've admired for a long time. My wife gave me this book, and I think she gave it to me in 2016. We opened our gallery in March of 2016 and closed it in March of 2026. But she wrote in there that someday you'll be in a book. So this is my full circle moment. I just noticed this book yesterday, and I'm like, I need to bring that.
And didn't realize what she had written in there. Like someday
she
you'll
wrote
have your
that,
own
and
book.
here I am. It's like, how do things come to fruition? And sometimes you just will it. Just like you're talking about our next chapter. We're empty nesters. We're now grandparents, but where we came from with building this, you couldn't have written a book, but I did, of how it all came together.
Yeah, it's all equal parts about knowing what to do and doing it, but also equal part of getting out of the way and letting life happen, letting life unfold, right? So the Humble Decade, the way this book is laid out is very, you put a lot of thought into it, but it makes it an enjoyable read of not just looking at pictures, but understanding what the inspiration was behind it and understanding.
I like to tell this, there's a story behind every painting. Because of my advertising background, probably, I thought like every painting I created, and I had an art director tell me this, it should be able to be the cover of a book. Every painting you create should be able to be the cover of a magazine. So you have to create a composition. And because of my professional background, I also knew that I can create a painting, and if you sell a painting, it's one and done. Other Houston companies, Q Imaging, did the scanning of my art, and it allows us to sell reproductions online. So it has a lifelong after.
We're going to go through some of these, like the book cover, Lend Me Your Ear, is a painting, is your friend's Black Angus with a cardinal by the ear. And cardinal signifies a loved one who's passed is paying a visit. And for you, that is your grandpa.
Yes. And actually, I didn't even know that it was a spirit animal at the time. There's a picture of my grandfather, who was a professional entertainer, and he's whistling, and Bing Crosby's listening. And that was my inspiration, because like you, my grandfather, well, he was WFAA radio, you of course, for television, and he was known as the Texas Redbird.
Oh my gosh, so that's where the radio voice of yours comes from.
Yes, it comes from that,
Your other picture, self-serve, painting of a raccoon on a Dairy Queen sign holding an ice cream.
One of those weird things, I had done a painting of a raccoon wearing a coonskin cap, and it was just kind of funny to me, and while I was painting that, I had this idea of a raccoon getting into the ice cream, and I don't know where my ideas come from, but I certainly, like you mentioned earlier, I want people to smile when they see my artwork.
Your Buck Rogers painting of Buck with the alien spaceship in the background. Of course, that fits into your NASA background. And then Pool Party, taking it literally, is a painting of a cow drinking water from a pool. And this happened in real life.
It did.
About 20 cows escaped to a neighbor's place, and the cows ate their lawn and then started drinking from their pool. There you go.
My wife called me and said, we have cows on the land. We don't know what to do. Our dog's chasing them in circles, and my wife said, you've got to paint this. And I had to wait for the right moment, and months later I was at a pool party, and my friend had these gigantic like flamingo floats and other things, so I incorporated that. And there's something kind of fun, the tension between what is really an inanimate object, the flamingo, looking at this live cow, and it's just kind of
the cow doesn't know the difference. He's like, hi, I haven't seen you before. All right, and as we started earlier, your artwork is seen in Buc-ee's bathrooms, and at first you're like, I don't know if I want to be a potty artist, but,
yeah.
but it's been amazing.
Well, they came to me, and we've got such great friends in Round Top. The Junk Gypsy people helped put together a meeting so that when they approached me, and you're right, I said I don't want to be a potty artist, but they said we're actually the world's cleanest gallery, so the exposure was fantastic. And for an artist like me now, I don't have my gallery. I sell my art online. I sell my book online at our website, but Buc-ee's, they get like 180 million visitors a year.
Nuts. People from all over the country go
and everybody
there.
stops at the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody walks by the world's cleanest bathroom, and I get a lot of exposure, and they do sell my artwork. Texas Monthly came out with an article about this, and this image, according to them, is the #1 seller of Buc-ee's, lend me your ear. So pretty
cool.
amazing, and that's why it had to be the cover of my book.
Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in. I mean, this is what Texas is
Deborah,
all about
you're a
right
legend.
here. Yeah,
You're a legend.
Oh my gosh.
So good to meet you.
Thank you. Great to meet you as well. For a link to buy your own copy of the book Humble Decade by artist John R. Lowery, or to buy his art, visit greatdayhouston.com, and we will connect you. And the next time you're in Buc-ee's, take a look. All right?